Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Scholar and the Jagoff. I'm the Scholar, and this episode, well, more like the series for a little while, is going to look a little bit different. Mainly because the Jagoff is not here with us. Um, we all know that COVID has been hitting us pretty hard, and don't worry, he's fine. Um, but he's out of town. He's actually in Mexico right now because he's tending to his family. He has family over there, and they um, had to go over there. So I'm running the show for a little bit. We wanted to actually wait until he came back so that we could actually, do this together like we've always done. But what turned from a 2 week hiatus turned into more of a 4 week, then a month. Well, 4 week is a month. And then 2 months and 3 months went by, and we decided that the hiatus would be way too long. So the show must go on, and here I am. So, of course, you guys know me as the other half of the show. And the show, for those who are barely coming in, actually, this might be your first episode. I'm the guy who pretends to have all the information, and the other guy is supposed to, learn, I guess. That's why it's the scholar and the jagoff. It's somebody smart with somebody dumb. Although I don't really, I don't think of myself to be too smart. Um, but I just like to, I care about a lot of things, right? So that's why, I like to talk. I like to hear myself talk. And, well, the other guy, well, let's just call him by his name. His name is Sebastian. He likes to put in his opinions, and that was a whole show. It was really, I bring up a topic, something that I think is very serious, something that needs to be discussed, and I would tell him about it, give him the facts, and then he provides his opinion, and then we have this whole discussion about it, whether we agree, do we disagree, and that's the show. But given that he's not here, we don't have that sort of I guess play. I guess we don't have that type of dynamic anymore. We probably won't for a few episodes. I am recording these sort of consecutively, mainly because we want to have as much content out for you guys as fast as possible, or not as fast as possible, but like as consistently as possible. That way we don't have these long breaks anymore. I will try to have other guests with me, sort of to like get different perspectives. Um, but for now, it's just me. Hopefully, you guys don't get too bored. I'm hoping that you guys can hear me out. Actually, listen to what I have to say. I have a lot to say, I think. And yeah, I really don't know what to say, mainly because this is the first time I've actually run the show by myself. It's kind of weird being a solo podcast host. And I know a lot of guys do it. There's some amazing shows where it's just one person. But now one of those shows is me, at least for a little bit, at least for a few episodes. We're hoping that Sebastian actually comes back because he's the other guy in the name. It's the scholar and the jagoff, not just the scholar. And so he has to be back, and we will welcome him with open arms. And so, yeah, let's get into the show. I don't really have much of a plan. That's basically what's the entire, show. We never have a plan. Oh, I forgot to do the intro properly. Actually, let me repeat the intro. So, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Scholar and the Jagoff. I'm the Scholar, and this is a show where we get to say whatever we want. So, yes, it is. Um, but what's new? What's new with life? What's new with me? So in the hiatus, I actually ended up getting COVID-19. I tested positive around October, and yeah, so actually it happened a little bit strangely. Um, I kind of sinned. I kind of I made a transgression, mainly because you know how we were supposed to stay at home, right? This entire year has been about isolation, staying at home, don't go to parties, things like that. And guess what? I went to a party. It wasn't anything big. I'll definitely say that it was just two families. So I want to say maybe like 8 people around there. Um, it was one of my cousin's birthdays, and so we decided to have a little get together. We assumed that everybody was negative, right? We had been negative up until that point. We hadn't gone out really just for groceries, and we took all precautions, masks, gloves, everything, right? And we hoped that the other family was negative as well. That's what we assumed. That's what we thought. And that's why we thought it was safe to, have this get together. Well, it turns out that one of the members, I won't say who, was positive with COVID and gave it to everybody in that party. Literally, just a couple weeks went by, everybody started feeling symptoms, and we all went to get tested, and lo and behold, boom, a positive test. So, if you're wondering if you haven't had COVID, if you've gotten COVID, you're probably still wondering, what did it feel like? What was it like, having the Rona? It wasn't good. No, I wouldn't. Okay, so I was one of those guys, right, who thought he knew about, viruses enough and looked at numbers and saw the 98% survival rate and, saw what the symptoms were, and I was just like, it's like a cold, it's like a flu. It's a heavy flu, right? My opinion on that hasn't really changed. It is a heavy flu, but I didn't think, or at least I underestimated how much heavier because it does not feel good, right? I want to say I was dead in my room for about 3 days straight. That was like the climax. I want to say the actual sickness lasted maybe 4 to 5 days. But for at least 3 days, like in the middle, I was just in my bedroom. I didn't come out. Didn't come out for food. Nothing. It was actually really bad. Like I laid in bed. I felt tired. I didn't get any of the worst symptoms, which is good. I didn't get the fever. I didn't get or I might have gotten the fever, but I actually never, because we did have a thermometer in the house, and I always checked my temperature, and I didn't have a fever. Like it never went above 100 degrees. But I was still warm, right? I wasn't at the normal temperatures. I was still pretty high. I was close. I was like 98, 99, but never over 100, right? I did get the body aches, the chills, the cold sweats. Like I said, I never got the worst symptoms like diarrhea, vomiting. I never got any of that. Thank God. Thank God that no one in my family got the absolute worst, right? So that's yeah. So and I actually lost my taste for a little bit, and it was kind of weird because I had never experienced something like that. I don't think I got it as bad as most people. Usually, people lose it like completely. They don't have taste, they don't have smell, they don't have anything. And I still kind of I didn't have my smell at all. And what's weird is, a lot of people, and what I had assumed too, was that when you lose your smell or your taste, or like it feels almost, at least for your nose, it feels like it's stuffed up, right? Because we've had those moments in our lives where we lose our smell, but it's because we're congested, right? We have a lot of mucus in our nose, and so there's no way you can smell. That's what I assumed it was, but it turns out that I lost my sense of smell, right? But my nose didn't feel stuffed. I could still, actually breathe in the air, and I could like actually sniff things. And I was trying so hard. I would literally go just, and try to smell something, but I never got a smell. And it's strange. And the same thing happened with the taste. Like, I just assumed like it would be like a numb tongue, right? Like you wouldn't feel anything. But no, your mouth stays like very active, like as if nothing's wrong with it. The only thing that happens is that you can't taste. It's weird. You can feel the textures. I could feel my tongue in my mouth, as I talked and moved, like normal. I just couldn't taste, and that was pretty weird. I lost my sense of smell completely. My sense of taste, I can't really tell. I want to say it was more subdued than anything because I couldn't distinguish various like things. So like if you gave me um like a donut and like a potato chip, right? I'd be able to distinguish that it's a donut and a potato chip, of course, textures and stuff like that. But in absolute taste, mm, no, I really couldn't tell you if it was sweeter or saltier. Um, so it's a weird sensation. It's very hard to actually like describe it to someone who's never had it because it's not like a numb tongue. It's not like something's wrong in like physically. It's weird. Um, I guess it's akin to when your hands fall asleep. Like say you know you lose circulation in your hand from like leaning on it or something, and it's just on the cusp of like coming back, right? But that stage right before you get the full sensation, you know how like you can move your hand and touch things and feel the texture, but you can't really feel it. I guess that's my best explanation for how it felt to lose taste. I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, so I got COVID-19 and it's man, I really thought that I was going to go either the whole year or the entire pandemic without getting it because we were doing everything perfectly. We were isolating, we were taking precautions, and we ended up getting it. And thank whoever that it wasn't that bad. We were one of the lucky ones. Unfortunately, there are families out there that, they're not as lucky. And I think that's probably one of the things that I'm going to use this platform. And hopefully the Jagoff agrees. And I'm sure he agrees because we've had episodes like this before earlier in the year. We need to use this platform to spread awareness. It is real. It's not over. You can still get it. And it's something that I wouldn't wish on anyone, really. It's not good. It's not a good feeling. You don't feel good, and I still don't feel good. In fact, I'm kind of scared that I have that I can't remember the name. But it's a post acute symptoms, something like that, where it still lingers, right? Months or like as far as we know, up until like now, 9 months since it started, and some people are still experiencing symptoms, right? I still do sometimes. I can't laugh or crack up anymore without having a coughing fit. And it feels like my lungs are completely dried out. And sometimes I still get the fatigue, the foggy like headedness. Finals for my university just ended and it was hard to get through it. I try to study, I try to motivate, right? I try to read as much as I could. I had a lot of books I had to read, a lot of lesson plans to go over because I'm an English major, but also an education minor. So I had to like make lesson plans and things like that. And it was very, very, very difficult. I struggled to actually do it. And that's what I'm trying to use this platform for. Because no matter what, if you do get it, right? Say you're young like me, you're in your 20s, you probably will survive. I'm not gonna ignore the numbers and say like, oh my god, it's the end of the world. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible that 200,000 and close to 400,000 people are gonna end up dead if we do nothing. If we keep going the way we're going. But if you're in your 20s, right, or even 30s, you might survive, right? And so you can have that confidence and say, yeah, I'll live through this. But I hope that you will understand that it's not anything to be proud of. You're not going to feel the same way. It's going to hurt. It's going to be a struggle. And as far as we know, the symptoms last for a very long time afterwards. I just tested negative a couple days ago. Finally, that's the first negative test I've gotten since I got sick back in October, and it's December right now. As we record this, it's December 9th. And I just tested positive a few days. Tested negative. Before then, I thought, 2 weeks, I recover, and boom, I test negative. But no, it stays in your body. The RNA actually gets detected for up to 3 months afterwards. So I'm actually kind of like one of the outliers that tested negative a couple months in. So yeah, if you're young, you probably will live through it, but you're not gonna have a fun time. You're gonna have symptoms afterwards. Um, so it's not a joke. You can joke about it, honestly. Like you can joke. It's just it's not something to downplay, right? Um, it's something that's pretty bad. It got the older members of my family much worse. In fact, they were sick for multiple weeks. They got, the horrendous dry cough, the pneumonia, and actually, one of the family members actually had to, or was very close to making a hospital visit. But they decided against it because he didn't want to be alone in the hospital. But that's the reality a lot of people have to face. And so you might survive it, right? But then you spread it to them. You spread it to people who are more vulnerable. And even if you think you don't care, it's gonna hurt you in the long run because, like I said, the symptoms stay, and it's a lot worse. But yeah, so that's something that I wanted to reflect on. That's something that I really wanted to like get out there. It's not anything to downplay. It's not anything to sort of like say, well, most of us will survive, so it doesn't matter. It does matter. So my message to our audience, to anybody who's listening, is wear a mask. When you go out, try to social distance at least a little bit. Just because it's not illegal, to not wear a mask, doesn't mean you shouldn't wear a mask. Doesn't mean you don't have to wear a mask. Um, don't believe, the current administration and what they're saying that you don't have to wear a mask. The masks don't work. They definitely do, and you might get sick. It might happen, but at least we can slow it. That's the whole point. No one has ever said since the pandemic started that we could absolutely stop it. But the whole point was to flatten the curve, to slow the spread down. So that's my little rant on COVID-19. But yeah, I hope that, you guys really, practice good faith. I guess that's my message. Is like practice well intended actions. You want to care about other people. So when you go out, wear a mask. 'Cause it's not even that. I've gotten used to wearing a mask going out. It's become part of my attire. Honestly, I don't know what I'm gonna do when we get back to normal because honestly, there's some really cool masks out there that I don't mind wearing in public. Um, but we'll probably get back to normal. In that respect, when are we gonna get back to normal? I guess that's the main question: is when is it gonna happen? Here's my prediction. If my word is anything of value, if you guys really want to take me for somebody credible, I don't encourage you to, but go for it if you want. Do whatever you want. This is my this is my prediction. This is what I believe might happen. It might not. Um, I say that we go back to normal in June of 2021. I think that's when we finally can go to the mall, go to a restaurant, hang out at a friend's house, maskless, gloveless. We could go back to raving. We could go back to, going to the movies. We can go back to traveling all around the world, meeting new people in June. Now, let me explain why. The vaccine, that's something that we were supposed to talk about when Sebastian was still here with us in the studio. But, we already went over that. But it's news. The vaccine is coming out. And the UK just finally approved the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine. As of recording this, the first person, a 90-year-old woman, just got the vaccine. She was the first person that was out of the clinical trials to get the vaccine. And actually, they're going to go in widespread this week. They're going to start distributing it to everybody. And as far as I know, the UK is doing it full send. They're going to give it to everybody. It's available to everyone. Nobody gets priority, but nobody gets left out. And I think that's just part of the NHS. They make sort of like these emergency systems in place. They have protocols in place that allow for emergency services such as vaccines to be available to everybody as soon as they're available, as soon as they come out, right? So for the UK, as far as I know, it's going to be available to everyone. So for the UK, Europe, depending on who approves the Pfizer vaccine, who approves other vaccines, because I think the UK, the reason they approved the Pfizer one is because it's a joint vaccine that was also created by a UK company, and I think that's the BioNTech one. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's bio and then a capital N tech. So that's how I'm gonna say it for the rest of the show. Please bear with me. So that's as far as I know. That's what I'm saying. And as of yet, it has not been approved for widespread use here in the United States. But we also have a different system here in the United States. For those who don't know, in the UK they have what's called the NHS, and I'm using my trusty knowledge bank known as Google to tell you what the NHS is. I'm trying to just find out what it stands for. Let's see. What does it stand for? What does NHS stand for? National Health Service. I am dumb. But anyway, so for those who don't know, it's a single payer system. So everybody pays a specific amount of taxes that go towards that service. And it's like a department here in the US, like a bureaucratic type department. But this single payer system is what allows medical services to be completely free to the taxpayer, right? Now you might say, they're not free technically, they pay taxes. Well, no, that's the whole point of the single payer system. That's what it's called, a single payer system. Here in the US, right, if you're an adult who, has a job, working full-time, pays their taxes, you would know that you have to pay taxes, plus through your employer, you have to buy insurance. And what the insurance does, the insurance company collects money from everybody, every one of their members, because that's really what an insurance company is. It's a club. And so everybody kind of buys into the club, and then they pool all the funds, and then whoever needs it can pull out of the insurance fund, right? So if somebody gets in a car accident, right, they're the liability because they're the ones using the money, right? So all that money that the insurance company collected from their clients, their customers, they use that money towards paying for whoever needs it, right? So like I said, somebody gets into an accident, they need the money, not everybody else. So that's how medical insurance works, right? So it works the same way. Everybody buys in through their employer. They have medical insurance, health insurance, and the money that they use is supposed to go to whenever you need it, right? You have to go to the hospital one time, the insurance will pay for it through the money that you paid in, right? So based on your plan, they'll cover different things. Some plans will pay more, but you have to pay more to actually get that service. Some smaller plans, you don't have to pay as much, but you also don't get a lot covered. So that's what insurance companies are, right? They're clubs that you pay into to extract money that you can pay for your services, right? So that's basically what a single payer system is, right? But you don't have to pay an extra amount. For a single payer system, the taxes you pay, that's your buy-in to the government's service, right? So imagine Allstate. It's a private company that you buy into. Now imagine the NHS as like a government insurance company. It's not a company at all. It's not for profit, but it functions in the same way, right? Everybody pays their tax, right? Those taxes go to the NHS and they pool the funds and then use it to whoever needs it. The thing about a single payer system is that one, it's cheaper because you don't have to pay taxes to the government for hospitals and schools and stuff, and then another separate fee for insurance payments. So technically, yes, if the US were to convert to a single payer system, our taxes would go up. But you know what goes down? The insurance payment. That drops to zero because now you don't have to buy into an insurance. All you have to do is pay your taxes. You're buying into that national service, that single payer, and you get free healthcare. Why? Because, well, nothing comes for free, right? That's the main argument. But that's why it's called a single payer. Who's the single payer? The service, the department, the National Health Service, the whatever would be called in the United States, Medicare, right? Medicare is the payer. They're the ones paying the hospitals. They're the ones that pay the doctors. So you buy into that service like an insurance, and whoever needs it gets to extract the money that's been pulled there and use it to pay off their services. So, yes, your taxes will go up because now you have to pay for a whole new department. But it doesn't go up more than what you're already paying now for insurance. So, that's why the UK gets a sort of like widespread, everybody gets it thing because the NHS can buy out or make a deal with the vaccine company, Pfizer, BioNTech in this case, and they say we'll buy this amount of stock. They're the ones paying for it via your tax paying, like via your payments, your taxes, right? And then they can just distribute it because it's your money. It's like your own insurance telling you, well, we have the flu vaccine every year available. We cover that. So you can go get it because you paid for it technically. That's what the government in the UK is doing. Of course, it's more complicated than that. That's just the sort of basic rundown. So the UK can get a widespread distribution of vaccines and other services faster because they only have to negotiate with the single the single payer. And honestly, that's why those services are a lot cheaper. Medicines are a lot cheaper. Ambulance rides are a lot cheaper. Even if they're free to you, the taxpayer, they're even cheaper to the government. Not because, oh, it's the government, but because, well, yeah, the government gets to negotiate, right? In our system in the United States, we can't negotiate those prices. And the insurance companies don't want to negotiate. So who sets the price for the service? The doctors in the hospitals. And that's why they're a lot more expensive. Or not just the doctors in the hospitals, but the companies that make the drugs, right? This is big pharma. So they're the ones that set the prices. And so they're going to be usually a lot higher. Not in the case of the UK. So in the United States, it's going to take a little bit longer to get that vaccine out, at least for wide distribution. For right now, I think, I can't remember who said it, but Dr. Fauci was on the cover. So I'm going to just assume it was Dr. Fauci. But feel free to correct me. Send me. You can't really comment on Spotify, but you can DM us on the Instagram at thescholar.and.thejagoff. If I'm wrong about this, but I'm just gonna point to Dr. Fauci in this. He said that in the United States there was gonna be a priority list, and so those who were on the front lines, like nurses, doctors, other healthcare professionals who were in contact with COVID-19 patients, they were gonna get the vaccine first, and then around April, that's when it was going to be widely distributed. And other programs and other agencies, in fact, my university is actually applying to be a vaccine distributor for their faculty, staff, and students, which is actually pretty cool. Whoever applies to be that priority vaccine distributor to their specific groups of people, their demographics, employees, things like that, they will get it in as soon as they can get stock, right? So right now it's December, might get it in a few weeks. My university, states that due to the application process, we probably won't get vaccines in stock until January, February. But whoever applies to be that priority list, to be on the priority list, they'll get it in December, January, or February. And then when it becomes sort of commercially viable, that's why I said, it's a lot harder without a single payer system, because now you have to negotiate with the plethora of insurance companies and, independent people, companies like CVS, Walgreens, and a lot of paperwork to be done. Once they negotiate all that, then it'll become commercially viable and distributed to the general public around April. That's what I remember that article saying. So we in the US might not get our vaccines or everybody vaccinated until April of 2021. Now, given how fast we can mobilize, and yes, don't think that just because the pandemic lasted so long that we're bad at mobilizing. Given how they mobilize sort of things like masks, mass distribution, production, things like that, I'm honestly expecting it to go faster than what they're saying. I'm thinking that mass production, especially because negotiations are already starting, we're probably going to get the vaccine closer to March. So by the time we mobilize, by the time everybody gets, you know, people who are positive now have to test negative. People who are negative get the vaccine. Different groups of people get the vaccine. Negotiations, all of that I just talked about. By the time all of it's done and everybody's vaccinated, I predict that we'll probably be okay by June. And yeah, so that was a whole rant, but that's my prediction. We'll be back to normal around June. But let's get into the other section of this podcast. Like I said, no plan, but I'm just making the sections up as we go. That's my prediction for going back to normal. But what does normal mean? What does it really mean? I mean, as far as we know, I don't think that there will be a normal. I mean, look at what's happened already, right? Our systems, like next semester for me at least, because this, my part-time job and school, that's my life, right? So next semester is all online, right? Online school will not go away even if everybody gets vaccinated, because to change the systems back again would probably take another few months, right? So at least for this semester, schools will probably still be hybrid or online. Universities will still be having their entire student bodies off campus. Local high schools and things like that, I know that they're doing hybrid, right? Some students go face to face, some do it online, and that's not gonna go back to normal within a day. It's gonna take a while, mainly because you have to prepare, retrain the teachers, sort of like get the word out. You have to send out flyers, memos, emails, to all the parents, all the students. In fact, some students prefer going to school online. Most university students don't, but I want to say teens and younger kids like to not go to school because they want to be at home. Home is more distracting. They're with their families, they're with their brothers, sisters, cousins even. So maybe they don't want to go back to school. And so it's a lot harder to mobilize things like that. And let's get into the very serious stuff. People are not going to be normal because of the sheer numbers that have died. By the time we hit the point where the vaccines are available, we will be closer to multiple hundreds of thousands more dead. And people's lives are not going to be the same after that. It's going to be a lot harder to sort of reconcile what it means to go back, especially when a certain family member isn't in your household anymore, you know? Because in the past year, you had to bury them, or you had to hold a funeral where it was socially distanced, or you couldn't even say goodbye because they were in the hospital. Most people are unemployed. In fact, their places of employment are completely non-existent anymore. You know, there was business owners who just started. Maybe they had the dream of opening that new trendy, popular cafe in Portland, Seattle, or Austin. And they're gone. They had to close shop because of what happened. They won't be able to go back. In fact, many of those employers, business owners, and employees of those establishments, a lot of them didn't have the savings capable of maintaining them for a year. But we're already getting close to a year. A lot of them, did have plenty of savings. In fact, to open up a business, you have to have the credit, right? You have to have good standing. And so you do have the bank account. But it's only like 2 weeks worth, right? If you just opened up a new trendy cafe and you just, you moved into a new apartment in this new city and you thought everything was going to be fine, but now you had to use your savings to pay rent. But now you can't. You didn't have a source of income. And you might not have a place to stay. So what does going back to normal mean? That's my question for you guys. Now, like I said, a lot of business owners, they're going to lose. A lot of them are going to lose. Excuse me. A lot of them are going to lose their residences. This goes into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is the government, right? Let's get mad at the government for a little bit. This show tries to be nonpartisan. We don't advocate for political parties. I will say that right now, and I will say that until the dying breath of the moment we sell out. No, just kidding. But that's what we'll say until the very end. We don't endorse political parties, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party. We don't. But we do have views. We do have perspectives. We do have opinions. And you guys have heard them before in other episodes, right? We've both expressed our opinions. We've both expressed our views, our political beliefs. But we won't endorse the party. And because we don't want to alienate anybody, we don't want to look like we're selling out, because we're not. We don't want to sell out. And because political parties need to have criticisms. They need to be scrutinized. And who are the ones to do that but journalists, but media and hosts like us? People in the social sphere, people who are in the networks and who are being hosted by Spotify, right? We need to be the ones who are the voice for those who don't have shows like this, for those who don't have series or places or platforms to speak their minds. We have to be that voice then. So we do have our own biases, right? We have our own perspectives, but that's why we have guests. That's why we have people of different perspectives. So I just wanted to get that sort of caveat out before I sort of relay my own opinion. This is my opinion, right? And I don't want to alienate anybody who disagrees with me. In fact, I welcome you. Please disagree with me. Don't argue with me. I don't want to argue with you. I don't want to fight. Let's not fight. Peace and love, right? But please disagree with me if you think, the world goes a different way. That being said, let's talk about the government. So, way back, I don't even remember. And it was just this year. Way back in the summer, we got that first stimulus check. We got the CARES Act, right? And everybody was happy because we thought the government was finally doing something. It was a little step, right? But you can't expect the government to do too much, right? Especially when it's very, very conservative, right? But it was a step in the right direction. We got stimulus checks. That's the first thing we got any type of basic income from the government, right? The first time in the entire history of the United States that the government decides that they should just get cash. Give the people money because that's what they need the most. They don't need welfare. They don't need job protection. They just need the cash to spend it on whatever they want. And in my opinion, that was a small step in the right direction. But now it's December. And what we thought was going to be a series of legislation from, the start of the summer till the start of fall, all the way to winter, we thought we were going to get consistent legislation, right? That was going to give us some money, some protection, some sort of small business things that we could do, more avenues for financial assistance, and we got nothing. The government has not passed another bill. Now, here's the thing. Again, these are all my views. I think that's incredibly evil, right? I think that's wrong. I think the government needs to, get its shit together, right? And, get to work, right? There are employees. We pay for them. They work for us. And we haven't seen a single dime back from the government, right? We pay taxes. We put in everything. That's our money. And they haven't given it to us. But you know where that money has gone? They've given it to corporate companies, right? Walmart, Amazon, Target. They've given it to the Pentagon. In fact, just last month, I think it was $170 billion were given to the Pentagon as part of the budget for the year. But they couldn't pass anything else. In fact, Mitch McConnell said, in order to speed up the discussions about passing legislation, relief, he said we ought to pass what we agree on, right? But what do they agree on, both the Democrats and the Republicans? That's giving money to, again, corporations, the Pentagon, and themselves. Things like government breaks, making sure that their checks stay in place while there's a transition of power. All of that money is going to other people, but we haven't seen any type of small business loans back in place. Unemployment's going to end on the 26th, and on December 31st, the the moratorium, I think it's called, for rent forgiveness is gonna end. That's only a couple weeks from now. Well, closer to 3, but 2.5. And they haven't passed anything to stop it. So what's gonna happen on the 31st, on New Year's Eve, when these landlords have to, one, pay their bills, because let's not forget that the landlord is also a human being that has bills to pay. They own the property, but they have to, pay things like utilities, electricity, and all of this revenue, right? They have to pay for themselves too. But because of that legislation, they had to forgive the rents of their tenants. But now the tenants don't have the money to pay back what they owe, plus their future rent. And the landlords can't pay their bills either. So what is the landlord going to do if they're stuck in a position where they have to pay for things now? Once the moratorium ends, they're not going to forgive their tenants anymore. And what happens? Millions of Americans lose their homes. And they lose everything, basically. So then what's the solution? In my opinion, if it is of any value to you, I think that we need a stimulus check, another one. We need honestly multiple stimulus checks. We need some type of assurance that we're going to be able to pay it. Now, again, luckily, I am one of the few lucky ones. Those around my circle, my peers, people I know, people I work with, they're also, thank God, not having to go through these issues, but millions of others, people that they know, are going through these issues. And we need stimulus. We need financial help. We need checks. We need an extension on that rent forgiveness. But the thing is, the extension is only a half solution. Because, like I said, we need to remember the landlords too. They're having to forgive the rent of their tenants, but they themselves have to also pay for the property. They have to pay the leases, they have to pay the utilities. So it's only a half solution. We need cash. Cash money is the solution. Now, I'm not saying we pour money, right? Because that's what a lot of people will say. The major argument against UBI or any type of stimulus is that it puts more money on the government. It puts us more in debt. But here's the thing. The government has the money to pay for it, but they don't use the money properly. Like I stated earlier, most of that money went to corporations and the Pentagon, who uses the money to buy more weapons, more things like jets. Who the fuck needs a jet? We're in the middle of a pandemic and you're thinking about who you're gonna bomb next. That money, those $170 billion, can go towards the stimulus check. Now you might need another Pentagon thing, right? But the money for the corporations. You say you're in favor. Both Democrats and Republicans, people like Mitch McConnell say they want to help the small businesses. And corporatist center-left Democrats say that, they want to help low-income families in neighborhoods. And by revitalizing the businesses, it'll help the neighborhoods. But you're not giving the money to the small businesses. You're giving the money to those huge, gigantic corporations that then replace the small businesses in the communities. They rob those small communities of the opportunities to open up their own businesses. They monopolize and gentrify the communities. And so they open up a new Target, they open up a new Walmart where there used to be, how big are Walmarts? Like, let's be honest. Go to your local Walmart and see how gigantic it is. And the parking lot is twice the size. In that same space could fit a strip mall of just local businesses. But it's Walmart, it's Target, it's Amazon, and a whole group of corporate companies getting that money. Now, you can use that money towards paying people another $1,200. You can use that for health insurance forgiveness, actually putting the money towards hospitals. But that doesn't happen. So this is my call to you guys, right? Our show is nationwide. It's on Spotify. It's available to everybody. And in fact, our demographics are in the South. Most of the South, we reach all the way to Florida. And the Southwest, we reach all the way to San Diego, right? We're nationwide, but most of our listeners are in the South. Thank you. For those who live in Georgia, right? Because it's December and there's a runoff election. Vote for people who are in favor of passing stimulus. Now, like I said, I won't endorse the party, right? And as much as I'd hate to have this, I really just want progressives to win. I'm a progressive myself. I support Bernie Sanders and AOC because they're progressives, but I don't support them because they're Democrats. So if there's a person, right, a candidate that is in favor of voting for stimulus, in that Senate. And right now, as it stands, it's the Democratic Party. So vote. Vote. That's how you'll show what you want. And I'm advocating for the left. I'm advocating for somebody who is in favor of redistributing the money that was used in the CARES Act. We need another stimulus check. We need more financial help. So for those who are in Georgia, vote. Just vote. Right? If you are in favor of the stimulus check, right now as it stands, vote Democrat. Right? If you're against it, absolutely against it, vote Republican. Right? But just vote. Vote as much as you can. Because you have to. Right? These things matter. And we've been seeing that whoever you vote for, make sure you vote for somebody who aligns with you. If you support something, if you don't, vote for the person who agrees with you. That's the whole point of voting. You're choosing the person that's going to represent you. In Georgia, if you've shown that you're mostly blue, then I would expect that your representatives support the values that you voted in terms of blue. If you have county representatives and your county is red, I would expect the representative of that county to go with the values of what it means to be red, to be Republican. So vote. Right now there's a runoff election, and it's very important that the entire state of Georgia votes. That's my message to our listeners if you're in Georgia. If you're not in Georgia, what do you want from the government? I'm going to ask you again. DM us. That's what we want. We want engagement from you guys. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your opinions. What does it mean, to participate? And what do you want from the government? What is it that you absolutely need from the government right now? In my opinion, it's financial help. It's the stimulus check. It's something to stop us from completely going under. And right now the government's failing us badly, right? But what do you want? Maybe you don't need a stimulus check. Maybe you've been doing good. And you think that other people can pull themselves by their bootstraps and, actually come out of this fine. That's what you want. And let us know. Comment on our post and tell us what you think the government should do. What's the next step? How do we get out of this? How do we get the economy back to where it should be? And how do we get back to normal? I think that's the whole theme of this episode is it's been a bad year. It has, right? I got COVID. People are going under. There's been deaths. There's been, sickness. There's been horrible things. But our main goal, everybody, whatever your views are, whatever your beliefs are, we all need to see how the hell we're going to get back to normal. Because none of us want to fight each other. None of us want to, be in constant hate or constant conflict. We just want to live our lives. We want peace, right? How do we do that? There are other social issues that I wanted to get into, but we'll get into that another time. Actually, I gotta save talking points for the other episodes that I'm gonna be by myself. But yeah, that's where we'll leave it for right now. Is how do we get back to normal? How do we? We're not just normal, but how do we get back to a good place? How do we fix the issues that we're seeing right now? Comment, DM us, follow the Instagram if you haven't been following. It's at the scholar and the Jagoff. Same way as you see it spelled in our Spotify. It's just the scholar and the Jagoff. Follow us there. DM us. I'm telling you, we do want you guys to engage with us. So comment on our posts. DM us. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think of the show, and tell me what you think of me. I know I'm only half of what the show's supposed to be. I know I'm only one person. So if you guys want to hear me talk about certain things, if you have a certain issue you want to bring up and say, hey, I want you to talk about this. Hey, did you hear about this? DM us. Comment, please. I need the topics. I need the the time wasters. I need the issues, the real issues to discuss. You know, I need all of that. So please tell us what you think. Tell us what you want to hear. In fact, if you have a story you want to tell us, and we'll put it on the show. I'll talk about it, right? I'll give you my 2 cents if that's worth anything. So, it's close to an hour. We're at the 57 mark. I'm not gonna make you wait all the way to 60 minutes. But that was our show for today. Ugh, I am stuttering horribly. But that was our show. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, evening, night, morning. Whenever you listen to this. I will see you in the next one. And this has been another episode of The Scholar and the Jagoff, signing off. Bye.